The whips and dark swords have always interested me. Compared to other weapons, they seem to serve no real purpose. They don't really boast much, only range is their biggest advantage, even then spears exist. The whips can't riposte, backstab, and even deal less damage against opponents in armour. So what's the point of them? Challenge runs! First, let's go over some rules. Only the whip can be used, no other weapons or offensive spells and items. All bosses must be killed, no summons must be used, no glitches such as duplication shall be used. I'm doing this run legit, I already feel bad for myself. First thing we'll need is this bin waste. It's located in the depth side of Blighttown, actually fairly close to Blighttown itself, so we can go get it immediately after reaching Firling Shrine. But let's not forget about its trash brethren. The notched whip has a little less damage than the base whip, but it has a bleed build-up which can be useful for a few bosses. Side note, I couldn't find an exact list of all the bosses that can bleed, so some of the ones presented here may be incorrect. Finally, there's the Guardian Tail, which has a poison effect instead. While the poison drain can be nice for a few bosses, the start requirement of 15 strength is going to waste some points. It's also pretty heavy compared to the other whips. So what upgrades are we going to want for these? For the base whip, I'll be getting it to a plain plus 15, and I'll apply resins if necessary. The notched whip will be our resident lightning weapon, since most bosses are susceptible to bleed or also weak to lightning damage. The Guardian whip will not be upgraded and only be used for its poison effect. Okay, so we have our weapons, what about a shield? The choice is obvious, friends. We'll also be wanting one spell of all this, Power Within, because the 40% damage boost will hopefully make certain bosses easier. Now onto the starting class. I'll be going hunter for various reasons. The first being the 14 dexterity, so I can use the weapon immediately. The second will be the strength, it's only 3 points away from being able to use the Guardian Tail. The third and fourth will be the vitality and endurance, both being pretty good for the base level. The attunement is also only one level away from being able to use Power Within. You could also say Knight and Deprived are possible for this run, but I want an excuse to use the hunter. The rings I'll be taking will start with Havels for less points being sacrificed into endurance, and the Wolf ring for more beef! For armour, I'll want something that's lightweight but provides good defense and poise. I decided to go for the Elite Knight set with the Child's Mask for the stamina regeneration, but you could also go Fathers to save some points if you want. Speaking of points, I want 40 dex to reach a soft cap and get the most out of the default whip, and I'll also need 36 endurance to carry all this stuff, and I'll need 1 point in attunement to use Power Within, and once all that's finished I'll just dump the rest into Vitality. Okay, I have everything sorted out. Let's start this awful idea. After reaching Firling Shrine, I'll need to head down to Blighttown straight away for the whip. This run can be difficult, mostly because of the large bugs that block your path, but this process can be made easier if you have force. I, however, have no such luxury, so my legs will be doing the talking for now.
Oh, fuck.
Alright, let's get started. The whip did okay damage for the beginning. I didn't really run into any issues at all. Apart from that. I didn't want to risk killing any of the Black Knights either, so I went straight to Havel, but with the lack of ability to riposte, I had to use an amazing strategy called gravity. Now onto the Taurus Demon. The fight wasn't too difficult, especially with the Gold Pine Red. Second tries the charm. Moving on to the bridge, I waited until the Drake dropped down and I moved on to the Sunlight Altar. The enemies were requiring more hits to take down now. I decided that the best choice was to run through the gate before it closes, running to Andre afterwards for safety. Using the souls I already had, I got the whip to +2 and now went to go get the Grass Crest Shield. After some parry practice and tactical suicide, I then killed the Burn-like Knight for another Titanite Shard, getting the whip to +3. It was now time for the Gargoyles. While the whip wasn't dealing crazy damage for this fight, it was enough for one Gargoyle. However, when the second came I had to be a lot more cautious, however I was still victorious on my first try. After spending the souls I got from the Gargoyles on a +5 whip, I then changed my course to Blighttown. When I got to the Blighttown swamp, I first wanted the spare humanity from Mildred. Afterwards I would move on to grabbing Power Within since I didn't get it earlier. After that, it was finally time for Quelaag. Side note, I could have farmed the leeches for large Titanite shards and get a +10 whip sooner, but I didn't want to, because I'm lazy. Moving on to Quelaag, I had complete confidence that I could... Okay, this isn't an issue. It will take a while, but it'll be fine. My second try was a lot more fruitful. As you can see, I'm about to... This cycle of dying repeated until I got good and realised I had to stick to the left side of Quelaag, not her right. Sen's fortress now awaited. Before that, however, I have a waifu to murder.
I don't like where this is going. Stop! No. Please, later, you don't understand. You don't know what you're doing here.
I also wanted to kill Ceaseless for some extra levels. That's right! Cry! I stole your sister's clothes! On my way back, I also made sure to make a quick detour to the Great Hollow and quickly get a Titanite chunk from there. No, I did not get the second chunk. I could finally leave this hellscape. I then headed back to Darkroot Garden and grabbed the Wolf Ring and the Elite Knight set, then moved to Capra Demon. The poise from the Wolf Ring certainly helped against those bloody dogs! And dodging Capra himself isn't too hard. Now with the Depths Key, I could quickly grab the Large Ember and save Laurentis. I'm not going to kill the Gaping Dragon just yet. Moving on to Sen's Fortress, because I surely haven't forgotten anything. Attacking the Snake Men will only result in more stress and hair loss on my part. Running through the whole place just seemed like the best option. I could just jump down here and... I could just run up here, reload the game and get to the top without being bothered by the boulders. Before taking on the Golem, however, I will need to kill the Gate Giant and the Fireball Giant for Titanite chunks. I could have also killed the Boulder Giant, but a chunk from him is not guaranteed. Using the souls I earned from the Giants, I bought enough large Titanite shards to get to +10. I was now ready for the Iron Golem, because I surely haven't forgotten anything. Of course though, the whip would be very ineffective against it, so I adopted the strategy of whoopsie, you tripped! Now I can safely move on to Anor Londo. Because I surely haven't forgotten anything. The next challenge will be the Gargoyle guarding the elevator. Or I could just not. The rafters and the painting guardians wouldn't be too hard with the whip, since the attacks are far reaching without much forward momentum. I forgot the doll! Shit. Ah, fuck. Okay, I'll get it later. This was a much bigger mistake than I'm laying on, since the notched whip was supposed to be the weapon I would use to take out enhanced Smo. Without the bleed and lightning upgrade, like I had planned, this was going to be a whole lot more painful. I even considered restarting the run, but I didn't want to redo all my work. Moving on, the entry to Anor Londo was surprisingly easy, mostly due to my sick parry skills. Oh! Oh my god! I'm just a good Dark Souls gamer. So, lighting the indoors Anor Londo bonfire, picking up Havel's set, doing the dirty skip, running to the giant blacksmith and buying some more large shards for the notched whip, I was now ready for skinny and fat. This fight has possibly been one of the most stressful things I've ever done. The damage of the whip, tied with Ornstein's tendency to hop away, really drawed out each fight. I threw myself at these two so many times that I had to take a tea break. I have no idea what was in that tea, because after the break, I beat them on my first attempt.
Oh, chosen undead, I don't...
After grabbing the Lord Vessel, firmly, with two hands, after a wonderful dinner at a restaurant, I went back to filing and straight to the asylum. I killed Oscar again, grabbed the doll, and beelined it back to the painting. I wanted my time spent in the painting to be short. So by using a sneaky skip, and by popping a humanity, I could finally get what I came here for. Poor Jeremiah, even a joke with his own weapon. Now I have the notched whip. Time to get out of this shithole. Don't worry, viewer. I won't kill this waifu. Not yet. With a new whip in hand, I ran back to the giant blacksmith and got a sweet lightning +3, and then roamed around a while for another 3 chunks to get a cutie pie +4. Lord Slayer mode could now begin. But before we do that, let's do some quick cleanup. Stray Demon. Dead! And lightning +15. Sick. Dead! Moonlight Butterfly. Dead! Waifu. Pink Shame! I forgot the Gaping Dragon. I'll do that later. I decided to head to Nito first, so I could get the Child's Mask for taking out the other lords. Taking out Pinwheel was trivial, but I was sure if Nito... No. The Tomb of the Giants was also too dark for me, so a switcheroo was made to Lost Izalith for the Sunlight Maggot. The Fire Sage wasn't too difficult. It's just a stray demon, but on fire. And for some reason weak to fire. Okay, I didn't design this game. The Centipede Demon afterwards, though, gave me some trouble. I had to switch to fire-resistant armour and get to a safe location. After a long fight, victory was mine. Now with the ability to get non-toasty toes, I grabbed the maggot and started to throw myself repeatedly at the bed of chaos. Can I just quickly say how much I hate this boss without arrows or firebombs? This fight was made by a lunatic. After many trips down holes. I whipped that little bitch real good. Now that I remembered that the Gaping Dragon exists, I destroyed his entire existence quickly and then moved back to Nito. I can finally see! Patches will also have to be spared, so I can get the Child's Mask from him later. But for now, I'll have to play along with his shenanigans. Once that's over and done with, I can go through this area with a little less stress. Fuck it, I'm speedrunning this area.
Together we can show the world what we can do. You are next to me and I'm next to you. Push me on through until the battle's won.
When it comes to Nito, I'll be wanting enough poise and defense to tank him and his skelly children, so I'll be wearing full havels for this. I also need to go back to the +10 whip with a charcoal resin, since Nito is weaker to fire than he is to lightning. With Nito you want to stay as close to him as possible, so he only uses his melee attacks with the occasional AoE blast. Okay, 2 down, 2 more to go. Sipho's up next, but I'm not messing around now. I'm angry! 1 archives skip and a maze dash later, Siph felt the need to greet me into his home. I politely denied and... Holy shit, this is going to take a while. If you haven't noticed by now, the whips are starting to degrade the further I get into the game. My best hope for the DLC is immediately killing the 4 kings after Siph, and farming the Black Knights in the Kiln with the Last Flame for Titanite chunks. Okay, only 1 lord left. Before that, however, I have a trap to kill. Another, however, because they set a rule that would only allow me to use the whip and no other offensive items or spells, I can't firebomb Guinevere, so I'm going to have to get the Dark Moon Seance Ring to actually get to Gwendolyn. I hate my own anti-fun rules. Killing Trappy wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. The bleed proc I intended never happened because he kept teleporting away. I was still able to down him though. Now I can move back to the 4 kings. 1 3-minute speedrun later, and I was starting to worry about the 4 kings. I had little Estus for the fight, and the whip couldn't kill a single king before the others came. I got lucky, however. The other kings paid me no attention as I beat one of them at a time. Well done, From Software. Now, it's time to farm the first Black Knight for 7 chunks. Yeah, Gwyn isn't weak to lightning. I'll need to get the default whip to +15. I'll also need it for the DLC bosses, since they'll most likely be the hardest part of this run. Anyway, now I have the whip to +14. DLC time! I honestly thought the Sanctuary Guardian would be harder for this, but at this point my damage was pretty good. Because of this, and being able to think of no other bosses who I would need it for, I decided against getting the Guardian Tail. Well, I also forgot to level my strength. Anyways, Artorias. He's one tough egg to crack. The one thing I do hate about the whip would be its speed. I find it hard to get an attack in while being able to get to safety afterwards. Not to mention Artorias could one-shot me if you got his buffs on. It took a while, but I did it. I'm not proud of myself. Next was heading into Inner Ulasil, where the enemies died surprisingly quickly. I would also need this key for Go later. Manus is close. Let's talk about the whips quickly. As I mentioned earlier, the notched whip is starting to falter. Even Manus, who is weak to lightning, receives very little damage from a maxed lightning notched whip. At this point, the defense of the bosses were just too high, forcing me to retreat back to the standard whip. At least the mid-game was fairly easy because of it. Now on to Manus himself. This fight was one of learning. It did not matter what strategy I used, what buffs I applied, or what armor I wore. If I couldn't learn and avoid Manus' attacks, I simply wasn't going to win. After throwing myself at him a countless number of times, and a close call being made, I finally beat him. Now back to the blind giant. Please take away the big nasty dragon. Kalameet is a strange one. You think I would be able to use the lightning whip, but Kalameet, despite being a dragon, is not weak to lightning. GG FromSoft, can't even stay consistent to your own lore. Anyways, I did beat him, after a few tries anyway. I'm mostly sticking to his shins. The end was here, or so I foolishly thought. See, without a weapon to riposte him with, Gwyn is actually a threat. The low damage of the whip didn't help this either, so I did what I had to do. Go full Havel. It was over. I had done it. I had killed all the Dark Souls bosses, only using the whips. But in that journey, I don't feel like I had learned anything. The whips had brought me nothing but torment during this whole adventure. I hadn't grown. I didn't know any better because everyone already knows the whips are useless. I had wasted my time. I had suffered, for no purpose. Please, heed my words. Do not use the whips. They are not a joke weapon. They are there to drain your very humanity and leave nothing left. They are there to make you suffer, and suffer I have. After the credits, I reawoke in a prison cell. But I did not open my cage. Instead, I accepted my fate. I turned the game off, and I will never use a whip again.